Yeah, hi everyone. Obviously a week that is going to be dominated by OPEC on the 30th, and you might be wondering why there's no decent chat out of what's going on. And I can tell you that's because of the way the OPEC meeting has changed, at least in my opinion, whereby we have a virtual meeting. You don't have the journalists hanging around in Vienna getting all the chat. You don't have the Saudi oil minister available for a quick word. I've had that experience myself, and you learn a lot because they tend to be very willing to talk. But of course, with the meeting being virtual and with the journalists essentially not being in Vienna, it's very notable that there's a significant vacuum of information here about what's going on. Initially, as you know, the thought was that there was going to be some bullying of the African members, notably Angola and Nigeria, because essentially their production is rising, particularly Nigeria's, from a well below quota level, but nevertheless a controversial quota as far as they're concerned, set for 2024. But then the other arguments that we would normally hear about, which we assume would be Saudi-Russia, Saudi-Iran is a huge one, obviously. UAE, Saudi is big, UAE, Saudi, Iraq, all of these conversations, we're just not hearing anything. And that's because we're in this virtual format where the journalists don't get to hang around with the ministers. And as I say, I've done that myself. I've hung around with the journalists in the lobbies of the hotels. I've heard, what they tell you as they come out of meetings, and that's just not happening. So my point is that we really don't know what's going on with OPEC right now, and it's a big deal because, Saudi presumably is prepared to roll, well, we know they're prepared to roll their cuts into Q1 2024, but clearly they're looking for help here from other OPEC members. And the exact nature of where we are in that whole debate, given today is Monday and the meeting's not till Thursday, remains very much up in the air. The outcomes are varied. Saudi could roll cuts and announce that everybody else is cutting as much as they are. Whether or not the market will believe that is another question, but at least they would be able to announce something big. Or the other extreme would be Saudi gets frustrated with everybody else and does what they did in 2014 and in 2020, which is, really quite a few times in the course of the last 10 years. And actually say, we're going to increase production to flush the supply side. Because what really strikes us about this oil market, and we've been writing about that yesterday in the note, is that whilst it's remarkable in terms of the scale of demand, it's also remarkable in terms of the scale of supply, and the growth of supply is quite widespread. So we have numerous countries that are producing rapid growth. Everybody obviously knows about Guyana. You see the US is breaking new records. We've got Canada raring to go with the TMX pipeline starting up, we think, second half of next year. And, not to mention, as I said, some of the more random members of OPEC themselves are also producing pretty good numbers. Libya, Nigeria we mentioned, and Iraq is very, very strong. So essentially the supply side is really, once again making a mockery of the peak oil supply argument. And it really comes down to how strong demand will be and how well Saudi can manage the market into what could be a weak year for demand next year. It's certainly not going to be as strong as this year. It's frustrating looking at the balances because, you sneeze on an oil balance and it looks like we're going to 200, and then you sneeze on it and it looks like you're going to 40. But ultimately, the market is basically balanced at the moment, undersupplied thanks to Saudi. And so the outcome of this meeting will be absolutely crucial. And as I've kind of tried to explain to you, we pretty much don't know what's going to happen next as I speak to you on Monday with the meeting happening on Thursday. So kind of exciting, very binary. If Saudi kicks the table over, we're going to 50. If Saudi gets together decent cuts, we're probably going back up to 90. Winter obviously will be a balancing item. And there it all is. So good luck. Stay tuned. I'll obviously send you a bonus message when we find out more from what's going on in OPEC. But it is quite striking how little information is coming out from the major journalists that would normally be reporting this stuff, because I don't think they know. Okay, have a good week. I'll talk to you again around the OPEC meeting on Thursday.